Hello, friends, and welcome back to Malicious Compliance Stories. But before we begin, best way to support our channel is to leave comments, like, and subscribe with the turned-on bell so you don't miss the new video every single day. Here we go. A customer gave me a glowing, unsolicited review to the manager who just rejected my job application. I still didn't get the job. Before starting, here's a bit of preface so the whole situation makes sense. There's a pet store near my house that's connected to a small cat adoption shelter. I used to volunteer there, and because I love animals, I'd always hoped I might eventually work at the pet store itself. So when I heard they were hiring again, I applied immediately. It was my first real job interview, the first one where I'd actually get paid, so naturally I was nervous out of my mind. I did the interview, tried my best, and then nothing. Weeks passed. I still volunteered at the shelter, and I'd see the store manager from time to time, but I never heard back. It stung, but I tried to shrug it off. Now on to the actual story. A few weeks after that interview, I was finishing up my volunteer shift at the adoption center and getting things ready for the next person. Even though I didn't have pets at the time, or the money to buy anything for them, I still loved wandering through the store and looking at everything. That day, I was cooing at the world's angriest cockatiel when I noticed a woman nearby who looked like she really needed help. Being the helpful gremlin I naturally am, I asked if she needed anything. She did, and since I wasn't actually on the clock for either place, I figured why not. I helped her find food, toys, supplements, litter. I lifted heavy bags into her cart. I gave recommendations based on things I'd overheard from staff while volunteering. Basically, for 20 minutes, I acted like a full-fledged employee without the paycheck. Eventually, she was ready to check out, so I followed her to the register to help unload her cart. And of course, who's standing there ringing people up? The manager who interviewed me. As I helped move items to the counter, the woman started gushing about me, how helpful I'd been, how kind I was, how I'd basically walked her through the whole store. She said very loudly and very enthusiastically, "You have an amazing employee here." I politely corrected her, "Oh, I don't work here. I volunteer at the adoption center next door." I added, maybe with a tiny bit of cheek, "But I did put in an application a few weeks ago." That's when this woman went off on a full mini rant about how I should be hired, how they'd be lucky to have me, how she couldn't believe they hadn't snatched me up already. The manager smiled awkwardly but said nothing. She finished paying, thanked me again, and went on her way. I headed home feeling a mix of amused and hopeful. And before you ask, no, the store never contacted me. Not even after that glowing, unsolicited, gift-wrapped recommendation. You walked into the store as a volunteer, acted with the professionalism of an employee, and left leaving a positive impression on someone who had no reason to exaggerate. That matters. The store passing on you doesn't erase what you showed that day. And our second story. Are you in the HOA? Florida, July. The kind of heat where even the palm trees look exhausted, like they're begging for water. I live in a quiet neighborhood where everyone smiles and waves, and then files a next-door complaint if your grass is half a centimeter taller than the acceptable standard. 2 blocks from me, there's a little shop by a gas station. You know the type. The sign is sun-faded, the AC inside roars like a jet engine, and the cashier counter permanently smells like coffee, hot dogs, and cigarettes. One woman basically carried that place's daily revenue. Let's call her Karen. Because sometimes the universe doesn't even bother being creative. Karen was, how do I put this gently, the kind of person who smoked like she was trying to beat tobacco at its own game. She could scan lottery tickets, yell at a supplier, and hold a cigarette like it was a conductor's baton for her personal orchestra of chaos. But this story isn't about her lungs, and it's not even about the time she tried to sell my wife the best menthols with the kind of drama you'd expect from a sommelier describing a 1982 Bordeaux. This story started with wicker patio furniture. My wife loves cozy. She's the type who can turn an ordinary yard into a Pinterest paradise in 2 weekends and 1 delivery order. We bought a wicker set, a table and 2 chairs, neat looking with cushions. We kept it off to the side under an awning. It didn't block the sidewalk, didn't creep onto anyone else's property, didn't glow in neon. It was just furniture. Nice furniture. One evening, I was watering the lawn when I heard that voice, raspy, like there's a tiny ash demon living in her throat. "Hey," Karen shouted from the sidewalk, What is that? I turned around. There she stood, hands on hips, wearing sunglasses that somehow managed to say, all by themselves, "I'm in charge here." "Good evening," I said, as calmly as humanly possible. "Is something wrong?" She jabbed a finger toward the furniture. "This ruins the look of the neighborhood. The look of the neighborhood. People are supposed to see normal things, not that wicker mess." I honestly thought she had to be joking at first. "Karen," I said, "it's just outdoor furniture. My wife likes it. It's clean. It's on our property. Nothing illegal." She did that little mouth movement that means I'm about to say something that's supposed to make you feel like a lower life form. "Are you in the HOA?" "No," I answered. "We're not in an HOA." And that no hit her like I'd insulted her entire bloodline back 7 generations. "Aha," she drawled, "so you're one of those people who thinks rules are for everyone else." I even laughed a little. Not mean, just confused. "I'm one of those people who thinks my yard is my yard." "We'll see," she said quietly, like a side character in a bad thriller, and walked off. I went back to my garden hose thinking, okay, weird lady. Moving on. I failed to account for one tiny detail. Karen had power. Small power, but toxic. A week later, I drove to my office. I rent a space in a small office building, dentist, accountant, insurance agent, and me, attorney. There's a parking lot out front, and I have a reserved spot with a sign. Everything official. It's literally written into my lease. I park, I go inside. A couple hours later, my secretary says, there's a gift on your windshield. I go outside. There's a citation, parking violation. I stare at it, and my first thought is, did I just slip into a parallel universe? It's my spot. The sign is right there. I'm parked perfectly. I'm not blocking anyone. Then I see the signature, officer/inspector, last name Karen. And the puzzle clicked so loudly I swear I heard it in my skull. I shrugged, took photos, walked back inside, and told my secretary, looks like I've got a fan club. That same day after work, I drove home, and like she'd been summoned on cue, Karen was standing by her house, smoking, leaning on her mailbox like it was her throne. "Karen," I said as I approached, "let's talk like adults. You wrote me a ticket in my reserved spot. That's a mistake." She didn't even blink. "You can't argue with the law, idiot," she said, exhaling smoke like she was signing my death warrant. "Bye." And she walked away. Just walked away like someone who just said, checkmate. I stood there staring after her with the exact expression people get when they watch someone willingly lick a battery. I don't like conflict. Seriously, I'm not a lawyer because I enjoy fighting. I'm a lawyer because I like order, logic, and when people think before doing something stupid. But Karen decided she was the local final boss of the neighborhood. The next week, citations started raining down like it was hurricane season. Monday, ticket. Wednesday, ticket. Friday, another one. Once she even wrote me a ticket while I was out of town and my car was sitting in my home garage the entire time. I literally sat down and said out loud, okay, this isn't stupidity anymore. This is a campaign. So I did what lawyers do when someone aggressively invites them to play. I started building a file. Photos of the reserve sign, photos of my car, copies of the lease, timestamps from the parking lot cameras, dates, citation numbers. I even asked the building administrator for written confirmation that the spot was assigned to me. They were shocked too. "We know that woman," the building manager told me. "She's caused scenes here before, but this?" I also recorded our conversation in front of her house. Yes, legally, because it's allowed here under certain conditions, and I wasn't making TikTok content. I needed proof of her motive and tone. And here's the main detail Karen didn't know. My cousin is the city manager. Yes, the person who gets the call when something in the city went wrong, but the mayor wants to stay clean. I don't like mixing family and work, so I didn't immediately run to turn on connections. I first did everything like a regular citizen, appealed the tickets, requested an internal review, asked for a hearing, and I got the classic response, "We will review within 30 days. Meanwhile, the tickets kept coming, so I called my cousin. "Listen," I said, "I'm not asking you to fix it. I'm asking how to properly file a complaint against an employee abusing their authority, because this is starting to look like personal revenge." He was silent for a second. "Are you talking about Karen?" he asked. I actually raised an eyebrow. "You know her?" "Unfortunately," he sighed. "What did she do?" I laid out the facts, no emotion, no embellishment, like I was taking a deposition. Okay, he said, officially you file a complaint with HR and ethics, plus a request for an audit of her citations. Not through me, through the system. I won't touch it with my hands, but I guarantee your complaint won't get lost. That phrase, won't get lost, sounded like a prayer. I submitted the packet, huge, beautiful, tabbed, like a Christmas present for a bureaucrat. And you know what I love about bureaucracy? It's slow, but if you shove the right lever into the right slot, it starts chewing up people who thought they were above the system. A week later, the city called me. Mister, they said politely, we received your complaint. We need to clarify a few points. You're stating that the inspector wrote the tickets to your vehicle even when you weren't on site? Correct, I said, and I provided proof. Yes, we see. That's interesting. Interesting is government speak for someone's about to burn. The investigation started. Turns out Karen didn't just mix things up. She did it systematically and shamelessly. Her route logs didn't match the locations of the issued citations. Several tickets were written as if she were physically there, but camera footage proved otherwise. In one case, the ticket timestamp overlapped with her badge entry into a city building. In another, it overlapped with her lunch break when, as it turned out, she was sitting at that same little gas station shop making the register. And the funniest or scariest part? My car wasn't the only one. When the city ran an audit, they found other complaints from people who just paid because they didn't want the hassle. Someone got tickets outside an office where their friend's competitor worked. Someone else got hammered in a lot where the wrong car kept parking. Karen, it turns out, was playing little sheriff without a sheriff's badge and with a massive ego. I was given a hearing for my citations. I showed up in a suit, but without theatrics, just my binder and a flash drive full of video. Karen showed up too. She sat down like the trial was about me. Do you admit guilt? She asked me, staring like I was a cockroach. I smiled. I admit you tried very hard. The administrative judge looked up. Inspector, can you explain the basis for citations issued on a reserved spot assigned to the tenant? Karen started rattling off. There was no permit. He parks however he wants. It's private property, but city rules apply everywhere. And anyway, Inspector, the judge cut in, answer the question. I opened my binder. Your Honor, I said, here's the lease. Here's a letter from the building manager. Here's a photo of the sign. Here's the camera footage. And here's a list of the dates the tickets were issued, along with my verified travel records. In one case, I was in Miami at a conference. Here's my badge. Here's the hotel receipt. My car was in my home garage during that time. Here's the footage from my home security camera. Karen went white so fast it looked like someone shut off her oxygen supply. The judge was quiet for a long moment, flipping through documents. Citations dismissed, he said finally, and I will be forwarding these materials for internal investigation. Karen snapped to her feet. This is a conspiracy. He thinks he's smart, he shouted. I'm doing my job. I tilted my head. Yes, I said softly. That's why there's so much evidence you weren't doing it. After the hearing, she swooped at me in the hallway. Too close, way too close. I caught the smell of cigarettes like an ashtray monster had hugged me. You'll regret this, she hissed. I looked her straight in the eyes. Karen, I said, I already regret it. The day I bought my wife wicker furniture. But now we're just gonna finish this. The end came faster than I expected, because the moment the city smelled an official investigation, Karen made the classic mistake of people who are used to getting away with things. She panicked and got worse. She tried to make a deal through mutual acquaintances, through hints. She even came to my office, yes, seriously, and told my secretary, tell your boss he'd better withdraw that complaint if he doesn't want problems. My secretary's the kind of woman who once shut down a telemarketer with a single sentence so hard the guy apologized and hung up. She smiled at Karen and said, of course, I'll pass that along. And could you please give me your first and last name again, for the record? Karen left without realizing she'd just handed us another nail for the coffin of her career. A few days later, my cousin called me himself. You were right, he said, and it's worse than we thought. How much worse, I asked. She falsified reports, he said, logged calls she never attended, and the funniest part, he gave a little snort, she was selectively issuing tickets, then bragging about it to her friends at the gas station shop. Oh my God, I breathed. She really thought that was normal? She thought she could, he said. Tomorrow she's being called in front of a disciplinary committee. and I'm not going to be in the building when it happens because she'll definitely scream about a conspiracy. I don't want you getting dragged into problems because of me, I said. I won't, he replied, because she did this to herself. The next day, Karen was fired, officially. Ethical violations, falsification of documents, abuse of authority. Not exactly a resume builder. And now comes the second part, where the universe adds a dash of dark humor. Karen had a car, not just a car, a credit-financed monument to her ambition. Big, shiny, with a monthly payment that screams, I live beyond my means, but my neighbors can see it. She bought it, as I heard later, for her son. Her son was a grown man with a rare talent for consuming time and oxygen. Lazy, always on his phone, always figuring himself out, and the self-discovery usually happened in the backyard with a group of equally philosophical couch ornaments, plus a smell that had nothing to do with lavender. So no job, no paycheck, but the car payment? Still there. At first, Karen tried to pretend nothing happened, like the kind of person who believes that if you don't look at the problem disappears. But the bank, unfortunately, is not next door. The bank doesn't write passive-aggressive posts. The bank just takes what's theirs. A couple weeks later, I looked out one morning and see a tow truck in front of her house. That same shiny monster of a vehicle is hooked up, and beside it stands Karen, pale, wearing that exact why me expression people get when they set their own house on fire and then act shocked that it's hot. Her son stood a little farther away, muttering, Mom, you said everything was under control. Shut up, she snapped. Have you ever done anything in your life besides eat and lay around? And right there, I won't lie, I didn't feel sorry for her. Not exactly. More like that weird feeling you get when you watch someone trip themselves on purpose, hit the pavement, and then scream at the sidewalk and blame gravity. Karen spotted me. Her eyes lit up with hate. This is you, she yelled. This is all because of you. I walked closer, but not too close. I like being alive. No, Karen, I said evenly. This is all because of you. I just stopped paying for your fantasies. She opened her mouth to launch another round of curses, but the tow truck lifted the car right then, and the metal tension squeal drowned her out. It felt almost symbolic. Her authority rolled away on a flatbed, and she was left standing in her empty driveway with her hands in the air. For a few weeks after that, she stomped around the neighborhood grumbling, trying to stare everyone down like we were somehow responsible for her life. But without the uniform, without the badge, without the I am the law. Sometimes the best revenge is when a person destroys their own life, and you just hold up a mirror to them and walk away. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.